Hello, everyone. Good to be back with you. I'm happy to have another young Indian with us, part of the Voice of the Young segment. Right now, we have with us Pranav Yadav. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Pranav.
Yeah, thank you, Subodh. I'm Pranav. I am currently doing my research master's in economics from Netherlands, Tilburg University. And it's really nice to be here because I've heard a few of these earlier recordings for the Voice of the India, a Voice of the Young, and generally it's a lot of people and their stories, and it's nice to see people coming together telling their stories about how they came into economics as a field and what their journey was in the field. And it's also like a honor to be part of one of those stories where I'm telling how my journey went. So I mean, I'm studying here my research masters in economics. And for those who don't know, or like research masters is essentially like the Indian equivalent of an MPhil degree. So like the first 2 years of PhD. After that, I would be continuing with my PhD here. Uh, I did my master's again at Tilburg in economics, sustainable development, and my bachelor's was in India. I did it from Ambedkar University Delhi. That was again also in economics. It was a 3 year bachelor. So that's I think a bit about me. In terms of like my story and like how I started with economics, I think it was like a very similar story to some of the other participants before me, how they took like science or like something in their high school and then they ended up falling in love with economics, which was the same with me. I did science and in my high school, and after that I started studying economics as a fifth subject, and later on I ended up like specializing in economics, did my bachelor's there and my master's, and now I've started my PhD in a way. uh yeah, so the journey has been interesting in a way because the more you stay in this field, the more you look at how academics work, how policy works, how different things work, and we're now at a stage where it's slowly shifting from just learning yourself to also teaching others. So that's an exciting stage to be at. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, what happened in your college days
Yeah, okay.
in
So
Delhi?
let's
And
in
how did
Delhi,
you
okay.
first get to economics?
Netherlands
No, I
or
know. How did you
economics.
even get into BA economics? That's, I think, a key question.
Right. Okay. So I did my like high school and PCM with economics, physics, chemistry, maths, sciences, pure sciences. And then after that, I think like a story of like several people who do that. It was JE exams, like the engineering exams for IITs and everything. But I think by the time I was finishing my high school, I realized even though I have the aptitude for sciences, it's not something that I want to continue with. So I like applied to Delhi University and a lot of other universities in economics, and I got through Ambedkar University Delhi, which is like a state government university run by Delhi government. And in terms of like the exposure there, I think that is where like my entire interest in economics really grew up. So how I got in there was purely the cutoff system, which was very prevalent in like the years that I applied to. So started my bachelor's in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
How
2017
was
to
life
20,
in Ambedkar?
yeah, 2017, 2023 years of bachelor's. By the final semester, we had COVID.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think the life there was good. So Ambedkar had this one system that I absolutely loved, which focused on an holistic development instead of focusing on pure subject in what you're specializing in. So we had a lot of free credits beside our core courses, obviously, but we had a lot of free credits and we were encouraged to take courses from different disciplines. So in my 3 years of Ambedkar, I think I did courses from pretty much every discipline I could think or was offered. So psychology, philosophy, sociology, gender studies, every human ecology. So all the courses that were there, we had like a diverse education there. And yeah, during that time is when I got really interested in economics, but also interdisciplinary research. So by the end of it, it was the end of 3 years. We had COVID, and during that time, I decided I will try to apply abroad. I think a bit of it was encouragement from my seniors. The other bit was, I think, just the state of affairs in general, where going abroad seemed like a nice option.
Okay.
So yeah, in that sense, I started applying abroad. That was um, June 2021, 2020, when I started applying abroad. It was like as everybody who knows who applied abroad, it's a huge process. Like it takes about a year. So I started sending my applications around August. I got acceptances and like all the results by March 2021. And that's when I decided on where to go, and Tilburg was the option.
Okay. So,
Think
but
during
what was your other occupation at this time other than applying abroad? Because you had
right.
finished your bachelor's, right?
Yeah, so I finished my bachelor's in June 2020.
Yeah.
And after that, for a couple of months, I mean, it was COVID, so there was not a lot you could do. I
Yeah.
stayed home. I did some online internships at different locations. So from what I remember, like one of them was an online internship with an NGO, and yeah, one of them was with another professor back in Azim Premji University, Bangalore. So these were the things that I kept myself occupied with. I would do online courses, I would
Yeah.
take some internships, and in general, I think I worked a bit on myself as well, because during COVID, you're at home for a long period of time.
Yeah.
There's so much time with yourself that you reflect and then you decide on different things. So
Yeah.
that's part of what I did. And yeah, then soon March came, and it was the time for making decisions. And I had a few acceptances. I had few universities that I could have gone to. Tilburg, I think the biggest reason why I chose was, uh, I think, finances, to say the least. Tilburg, among other universities that I got in, Tilburg was the one that offered me the most scholarship. It was practically a full ride in terms of tuition fees. I had to take care of the living expenses, but I think that was a great option for me. So that is how I ended up in Netherlands, the
Okay.
country, yeah, where sustainable development is actually at the forefront. So
Okay. All right.
yeah,
So they teach in English. I know. I mean, in
yeah,
Netherlands, graduate courses they teach in English. I
exactly.
once gave a lecture at the University of Twente uh,
Ah,
long
nice.
ago. Long
Yeah, yeah,
ago.
yeah.
I have I've stopped my international travels and all. But yeah, in Netherlands, they teach English. Okay, everybody, because they're export-oriented economy anyway,
Yeah,
so they need to, and nobody speaks Dutch except the Dutch.
that is true.
Yeah, it's a very tough language to learn, and they have no hesitation in saying, forget it. Our young people have to know English. That's the way it is. So I'm glad that you went to Tilburg. And how was it there for you?
Yeah, so that thing first, I think like Netherlands is the like one of the very few European countries where not knowing their local language doesn't hamper any like most of your prospects. So if you
Yeah,
go to Italy or France or even Germany, knowing German, French, Italian really, really helps in getting a job. But with the
yeah,
Netherlands, there's a huge amount of opportunities even without knowing Dutch. Like I've been here for almost 2 years. I still don't know Dutch, and I've lived by just fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I think that really adds up to like living here. So the first, like, I reached here August 2021. That was 1 year of masters that ended up being 1.5 years because I took up an internship for 1 year. But overall, I think it was a great learning experience because it was me coming to a different country, and there were so many things to figure out, like personal finances, learning how to cook, learning how to just take care of yourself and your house. You end up becoming extremely responsible about yourself. So there were a lot of things that I learned in this 1 year, 1.5 years of my master degree. Yeah, and I think so. There are a few things that I did want to talk about, like my
Sure,
interests in economics.
right,
Yeah,
right. Let's talk.
yeah. So within my interest in economics, I think like in I really like studying about environmental and climate economics. That is probably the field that I will specialize in. That is the field that I will write my PhD in as well. So that's one field that I have really looked into, worked on, and will probably continue to work on. But otherwise, there's also development economics, health economics. These fields also like that's I think all of these fields are connected in a way that you cannot have development without caring for the environment. You cannot have healthy people without caring for the environment, and vice versa. You can't have healthy people in a dirty environment either. So those were the things. So during my master's, I worked on my master thesis in the field of climate finance, where I worked with a bank and I wrote a thesis on like energy efficiency and credit risk. So how does it happen? Like if you have an energy efficient house, does that reduce the risk of default of like a uh, homeowner? So those were the things that I studied on, and I think in the field of climate finance especially there's a huge push on showing that like hey there's a lot of monetary benefit of saving the environment.
Yeah.
But the more I read about it, I feel like I think our focus is too much on the monetary benefit instead of really recognizing that there's like an entire human civilization depends on having a habitable planet. So attaching money and calculating its worth does not really add up to the fact that without the planet none of this really matters. So like slowly I think I'm like leaning towards like the tail risk idea of like environment. But otherwise yes, this is like the broad research interest that I have in, and I think I went too far deep into that. But yeah, so
Okay. So
that's yeah.
so you finished your master's and you decided you liked the place and they gave you another scholarship, or what happened?
Right, so I finished my masters. That was January 2023,
Yeah.
almost a year ago. So
Yeah.
I think 10 days from now, 1 year ago was the day I graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I finished my master's. I was applying for PhD positions around the time when I finished my master's as well. And I was mostly focusing in Netherlands. With the Netherlands, I had two nice offers. And as it so turns out, Tilburg again was the place that gave me the best offer. So it's a nice position, 2 years of studying with very low tuition fees. I get a stipend for everything, and we also have teaching responsibilities by this during the second year. And once I pass my second year, I become like a full-fledged PhD candidate who gets a salary here and all those benefits that that you get with like being a Dutch employee.
Okay. So
Yeah,
looks like your future is Netherlands for some time to come.
at least for the next 5 6 years. Yes.
Right. Okay, good. All right. Any tips you have for young people?
Think so there are a few things like one of them is like again like I think the tips that comes in they come in like different levels of like where you are in part of the education.
Yeah.
If you are applying for masters, I think one tip is to obviously apply for as many places as you can, try for as many scholarships as you can, because you never know when you get that scholarship. There are very few people who actually think about or even applying for those scholarships. I was lucky to get like two scholarships during my masters, another one during my research masters. Pretty much all of it was funded for me. So think that that is really one of the tips that I could give is apply as much as you can, research well when you're applying, but also when you're here, I think it's at least given that I have lived in a European country for 2 years, it slowly becomes important to me, like the idea of work-life balance. I think while I was in India, that was definitely not there. Like we would work during the weekends, and I think like the work culture back in India is still somewhat of like that. The hustle culture where you work during the weekends. That I was also like part of that during my bachelor's. While I was doing a full-time education, I also started a startup. I was part of at least 2 to 3 societies, working multiple internships because having free time or not being busy. that seems like you're not doing something right in your life. But the more higher you go, you realize there's always going to be someone who's better than you in academics. Like academia is one field where no matter how much you put in, there's always this one person who has 10,000 citations above by the 4th of January, and then you realize, okay, there's probably no point trying to catch up there.
Right.
So you realize, okay, it's important to care for yourself. So think when you're doing masters, when you're research masters, PhD, in all those phases, it's probably important to compete with yourself and also to take care of yourself and allocate your time for resting. I think that's one advice that I would want to give.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a certainly, as you said, it's a European point of view. You don't find it
definitely.
in the US and India. Both the countries are quite similar that way. I mean,
Yeah.
look at me, I'm working here.
Yeah.
Sunday day, Saturday, Sunday, every day. For me, it's like, okay, no problem. Okay, I guess I'm happy to do it. All right. Anyway, some more tips.
Yeah. Yeah. Some more tips. Okay. So if you're living abroad, that's I think another thing is like living abroad requires a whole set of skill set which you won't get when you're living back home. So you'll have to learn how to manage your finances, you'll have to learn how to cook, you'll have to learn how to like essentially allocate correct time to different things. When I did my bachelor's at home, I didn't have to care about anything except studying because I lived with my parents, the food was there. But when you're living alone, there are so many things that you need to take care of, and it can become overwhelming very quickly. So it's, I think, a good idea to take a step back and realize that think you come first, and education can always happen the way it happens, and it will take its shape. And probably getting the best grades is not like the end goal, at least for me. It's not to say that it's not a goal, but it's not to say that it's something that you should put forward against everything else that is in life. So knowing how to cook and managing your finances definitely come in handy once you're here or once you're outside.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Anything else you want to add here?
Hmm. Anything else? Think.
Okay. Just what are the
Yeah.
new things that you have really picked up living abroad?
Again, like the ones that I mentioned for sure, but I think one thing that is very specific to Netherlands is cycling.
Yeah.
So Dutch people love to cycle, and it's like no matter how much you say about it, like yeah, the weather here is not the best, and you have to cycle through every weather. So I think an important skill that I learned here is to know how to cycle in rain or snow or any kind of weather. Just
But
that's
even in Denmark, it's so common. Copenhagen,
yeah.
yeah, it's very
You
common. You
people
go to
cycle through snow and
you
rain, and it's just so normal here.
you go to see a key government person, and at the end of the meeting, the person will say, "Okay, I'm going home," and they get on the bicycle and go home because Copenhagen is
Yeah,
flat. Netherlands is also flat, so
exactly. I
that
think
is
that gives it an edge, but I think yeah, like also like personally, I think cycling is a great thing because of how much it cares for your physical health, but also like how environmental friendly it can be. So I wouldn't say someone in Delhi to like go and cycle everywhere. That's probably not feasible. But when you can, you should.
are people using e-bikes or is
Yeah,
it
people
still
are,
manual?
but people are using e-bikes a lot. But again, not students. None of us can afford that, so we just
Right.
stick with the regular manual cycles.
Okay, fine. All right.
Yeah, but
Anything
I
else?
think yeah. But anything else? So I mean, more of the tips that like I mean I gave was around how to apply.
Yeah.
And if somebody really wants to apply, I think one thing that helped me was to start early. And I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah. By
yeah.
the way, you slipped in something which I had missed earlier, that you did
Yeah.
a startup. Now tell me about the startup.
Oh yeah. So that's something I did during my bachelor's. That was I think almost a 3-year long venture, and it was with 4 other classmates of mine. So the 5 of us, we decided to start something around like online learning on finance and like things around finance. So We recorded some online courses. We went and we also gave seminars in like several DU colleges. And yeah, I think in the beginning it did lift off very quickly. We had several students who took up the online courses, but also like personal like lectures. There were a lot of like students who did turn up for like those things. Oh, by the way, the startup was called Tutorate India. But I think by the end of the 3 years mark, all of us went on different directions. Some of us
Right,
went abroad,
right.
some of us went to do their MBAs. So
Yeah.
that's how it kind of fizzled down.
Okay.
But those 3 years were also like a learning experience for me, because when you have a startup, or like there are so many things you learn and have to be responsible for. Like we all had to like know how to design posters, manage finances. At one point, I think like some of us were teaching, but also managing finances, promoting things, and like you kind of become someone who multitasks at a huge level, and like it does teach you a lot of things at that point.
Okay.
And
Wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
think it also taught me a lot of like finance, like because although we were teaching finance, but when you're learning something versus when you're teaching something, there's a lot of understanding gap that you need to cover. Because when you're learning something, okay, it's like somebody taught me something, I understood it. When you're teaching something, you need to know everything about that subject, because you never know what the question could be about.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Anything else? Think like the one thing that is on my mind is about like climate and environment. So think we would probably need, if like someone is doing economics and if it interests them, the world needs a lot more economists who are working towards the environment. So
All right.
that's one thing. Like it's probably not a tip for someone, but it's something that like we could keep in mind, because sometimes a lot of us, we sit together, we talk a lot, and given it's a very small cohort of people, it's 9 people in our class, we talk and we realize, okay, so there's this 6 years before we graduate, get our degrees, then we would go get our jobs, we would work somewhere, we would try to make a difference in this world via policy or whatever. And we sit and think, oh, what if by the time it's too late?
Yeah.
And that's a real fear among like a lot of people. By the time, what if it's too late to save the world? Or by the time, what if it's too many, like a lot of carbon emission has already been done, there's no
Yeah.
going back, we
Yeah.
crossed the tipping point.
Yeah.
But on those days, like we sometimes see these like hopeful news which kind of lights up. Like, so for example, the COP28 that happened,
Yeah.
you could look at it in a lot of negative spotlight, but there were quite a few things that went right in that. And I think those small steps really matter, but also like not as a global level, but also at a personal level, those small steps matter.
Okay. All right. But I think we have sort of reached the end of this talk here.
So yeah,
And
it was rather quick. I didn't expect it to be like this quick. Yeah.
okay, so let's end it here
Yeah.
now. Maybe we'll
Okay.
catch up with you in 1 year to see how you are doing, what's going on with you. And
Perfect.
let's
Yeah.
say bye to the viewers now.
Okay.
And
Bye
I'll,
bye. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Bye bye. And like, thank you for listening if you
All
did.
right, fine.
And
Okay, good.
yeah,
I'll be back with another young person or an expert soon. Bye till then.